Hello, welcome to the Shawnee Prairie Blacksmith Shop. I'm Hank and I'm the blacksmith here, and I'm going to show you a little bit about blacksmithing, tell you a little bit about blacksmithing, and we're going to start a fire here first. And this is my forge, and we either use coal or charcoal, something that will burn. We have a bellows up here that brings air in, a chimney that takes the smoke out. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get this fire started, and we'll go from there. Takes us a few minutes to get the fire going, but we'll get things going here, rolling. We're probably going to make a small little hook called a stick and Tommy. It's a nice, useful little hook. When we get all done, it should look something like this. And this looks like a nail here, which it can be driven into the wood. There's a twist in the middle, there's a loop, and then there's a nice little roll eye on the end. And you drive these right into wood, and it's like just a J-hook would hang on the wall. You can hang an article of clothing on it, hang a mirror on it. You might have these over by the fireplace, and hang it in the mantle, and you'll have your cooking utensils. You could also hang a pot down over, just warming over the fire, and it'd be hanging up high. So we're going to make one of them, and it doesn't take a lot of time, about 5 minutes, and we'll have hopefully one of these made up for you. What we're burning is we're burning hardwood lump charcoal, and this blacksmith shop would be something you'd see in the late 1700s, and there was wood everywhere. So you burn the wood once, and you don't let it burn completely out, and snuff it out, and then you end up with charcoal. And so that's what we're using here, and it makes a real good heating source. When we're talking about heating, how hot does the fire get? Well, right in the very center of that fire, it'll be 3,000 to 3,100 degrees. So think about water boils at 200 degrees, and that's 3,000 degrees. So that's 15 times hotter than what water boils. Well, we have to have a hot fire in order to take the steel, and it has to get hot, and that makes it pliable, makes it soft, so then we can hammer on it, we can draw it out, make it longer. I can do those twists. I showed you that twist in there. That's the way we can twist it and everything. So we have to watch because that fire is hotter than what steel will actually melt. So we have to keep an eye on it, make sure we don't melt the iron, but we need a good hot fire. So that's what we'll get in there. It'll be pretty warm. I got a piece of steel in the fire right now, and it looks kind of like that, and that's what we start out with, just be a straight long piece of steel there. And we got her in the fire right now, and we're going to heat it up, and I'll take it over to the anvil, and we'll taper that end down, make it look like kind of like a screwdriver on the end, and hopefully we can get all that done in the first heat. We try to work as quick as we can, and because while it's hot, it's going to cool down quickly as soon as I come back out of the fire. When this comes out, it's going to be almost a bright orange, and that's going to be about 2200 degrees. 2300 degrees, 2350 right in there is where this iron will actually start melting. So we don't want to quite go to that point, because if you melt it, then you're going to destroy the end, and then you're going to have to cut it off and start over again. So we want to do the best we can and not destroy what we're making. So it looks like our heat's ready, and we're going to go over and start on this. Now when I'm beating on this, or hammering on this, you'll see that I'm only turning it just a quarter of a turn, because the anvil is doing the same thing that I'm doing with my hammer, only the anvil's not moving. So I only have to hit on two sides of this iron to draw it out on all four sides. So with that heat, we've got it tapered down. There it's tapered down, kind of looks like a screwdriver. It's still about the same width. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put it back in the fire. We'll roll that little I on it that I showed you earlier, and then make the J, and we'll try to get that all done in one more heat. Okay, we're up to temperature. We're going to do that, roll that little I now, and do the J. Here we go. And it's real nice and soft, because we got a good temperature. That little I rolled around there real nice. I'm going to touch it just in a pan of water, just on the very end, because I'm going to tap on this and roll that right around. And if I wouldn't have done that, I would have smashed that little end. I would have smashed that flat, and we don't want that to be flat. Now, that looks kind of pretty, that little I that on the end of that, but there's a reason really it's on there. If you've got this hanging up, and you've got an article of clothing hanging on this, and you get in a big hurry, and you take your coat or shirt or whatever off of there, and if that was pointed or something, it might catch and rip your clothes, and you don't want to do that. So it's actually functional. It looks nice, and it's functional both. Okay, now that we've got that end done, I showed you earlier the finished hook. We're going to turn it around, and we're going to draw that point out and make that look like a nail, like a big old square cut nail. These tools that I'm using in my hand are called tongs, and they just look like big pliers, and they're an extension of my fingers so I don't burn my hands. So that way now I can switch, because you know that's still pretty hot. Even though that's black, that's probably still 1200 degrees, and that will burn you really easily. So we'll go back in the fire and we'll do that sharp point, make the nail end. This is called a post vise, and this looks a lot different than a lot of the modern vices, because this is a real heavy made vise. It's got a leg that goes down. Sometimes they call them a leg vise because it's got a leg, or sometimes it's mounted on a post, and it's we can lock stuff in this. We can beat on this. If you just had it mounted just on the table alone, why, it wouldn't be near as sturdy as what this is, but this is real sturdy. So we use this a lot to pound on, almost like a little mini anvil from time to time. We've got different kind of bending fixtures that we can put in. We can lock them in. But this time what I'm going to do is, when I get that point made, I'm going to actually put it in there, and I'm going to bend it over in there. So I'll be able to bend over and hold that piece of iron. I'll lock it in just like this, and then I'll hammer that over, and that'll be that 90-degree angle. So then that way, when you want to drive this in the wood, you can beat on it right here, and that'll hammer it right in. Of course, the last thing we'll do is twist, and we'll show you that. Okay, we're ready. We're going to put that point on the end of this. And there again, I'm only going to beat on two sides of the metal. And it's going to draw that right into a nail point. And we got that looking about where we want it. And we're going to lock it right in the vise, just like that. And that's still nice and hot. See how easy that bent over. Okay, so we've got that just like that. Now, last thing we're going to do is going to put that twist in it, and that's just something that I do. It kind of makes it look fancy, and so we'll put her back in the heat. And here's another thing that we'll do is we lock it right in the vise, and I'll be able to take my tongs and just stand here and just twist it one complete revolution, and it'll put that real nice twist in it. You can see the color is nice. That's about 2,000 degrees right there when I brought it out. This don't have to be extremely hot, but you got to have a pretty good color in there because you're not drawing it out, you're not beating on it. All you're doing is just wanting to twist it. And then it gets moved around a little bit when you twist it, so you got to do a little straightening on it. Get it exactly where you want it. And I think we got it about where we need to be. That looks pretty good. We're going to put a little bit more angle on that nail. And I think we've got it. So it's still nice and hot. So I think that that'll work. Now, the last thing that we'll do is, you know, iron rusts. So today, most of the people will put paint on things. And we use some traditional stuff, and this is actually beeswax. This is just exactly like the beeswax that's in your beeswax candles, only this was just poured into a block. And then what we will do is we will actually just rub this on it. The iron has pores, much like your skin does. And when the iron gets above 400 degrees, those pores of the metal will open up. But the beeswax will melt at that temperature or above. And so as we rub it on, you'll see some smoke. Sometimes if it's too hot, it'll actually flame up on you. But we'll rub that on, and that will melt, and that will actually get absorbed right into the iron. And as it cools, the beeswax will then solidify. It'll go back to a solid, and the iron, of course, will just lock the beeswax right into it, and you'll have a nice rust-free finish. And it'll be nice traditional. Now you could use oil on this and things like that, but beeswax is traditional. We've had beeswax for several thousand years, and so that's going to get us pretty close. We'll have to let that cool down. It'll take a few minutes for that to cool down, and then we'll give it a try and we'll see if it works. Okay, so we got the hook all done. And we're probably not going to be doing anything in the shop right now for a few minutes at least. So I don't have a big roaring fire going. We just got some good charcoal laying in there, and it's just going to sit there and idle like that. The fire's burning about 700-800 degrees, much like what your campfire would be. And you know, we're all surrounded. We kind of watch. We've got some water here if we need to, and we can water down the outsides so that the fire doesn't spread. But when we're not adding the air to it, why, it just idles there, and it'll be fine. So we'll leave it like that for a while, and later on, we'll be back working in here again, and then all we got to do is just bring some more air into it, and with the bellows, and the fire will pick right back up, and we'll be right back up to that working temperature again. Okay, we're going to fast forward here a little bit, and it's cooled down. We let it cool for about 5 or 6 minutes, and the finish now is all solidified on there, and it's like I said before, it is a rust-free finish now. So we're going to make sure that it works. So we're going to go over here at this wood door frame, and we're going to start right here, and we're going to hammer it in. And this little tool here we use around the campfire for turning meat and things like that. So we'll just make sure it's going to work, and there we go. So we got a finished product in just a few minutes. So hopefully this gives you some good information on a blacksmith and what he does, and we'll go from there.